Tuesday. Here it is. It's time for a power hour at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. No matter where you are in the world, it's 6 o'clock right now. So we'll go with that. We decided it's a definitive 6 o'clock right now. And welcome to Empower Hour. This is our second in a series. We do a lot of reading. Christine and I both do a lot of reading. And so tonight we're going to talk about the second law we've got the book is the 22 Non-Negotiable Laws of Wellness by Greg Anderson. And last week we talked about personal accountability. And this week we're going to talk about the law of creativity. But we definitely want to start off with our centering exercise. And I'm going to have Christine kind of take that from here. But we're glad you're here. We want to just invite you to make comments throughout in the chat. Even if it's not a live, we do look on the replay. So if there's anything you ever want us to know, just put it in the chat. We'll definitely find it. But to kind of calm us all down, get us centered and get us mindful, let's start with a centering exercise. Christine, over to you.
Woohoo! Thanks, Molly. Thank you. Yes, and like Molly said, we like to start out every Empower Hour with a centering exercise because we don't know where you're coming from, what chaos is going on in your personal life or in the world at large. And it's just a nice way for us to start this hour because this hour is for you. This is empowerment inside and out. And we want to start from a grounded place. So if you're sitting, sit tall. Just take a moment, sit tall. If you're standing like I am, stand tall. Close your eyes if that feels good, and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. With your eyes closed, ask yourself gently, what am I currently creating with my thoughts? Not your to-do list, your bigger life picture. Are you building from love or from fear? From intention or from habit? Now, visualize a blank canvas in front of you. On it, begin to paint. It's all in your brain, all in your mind's eye. Paint just one thing you deeply desire. There's no wrong answer. No pressure to get it right. Just let your imagination play. Now take one more deep breath and silently say to yourself, my life is a masterpiece. I create it with intention. My life is a masterpiece. I create it with intention. When you're ready, open your eyes and come on back to the space. How'd that feel, Molly?
It was actually pretty good. And and I think it's really something that's going to go in line with what we're going to be talking about today, and creation and intention and calm. So yeah, I liked it. I feel pretty good. And the thing is it's what that centering exercise did also was it really was a great example of micro mindfulness. I think a lot of people, when they think of mindfulness, it's been, the whole concept of self-help and the self-help guru and whatever. I think some of it actually came out of the pandemic because people's brains really got bent for, I know it was really difficult for me, and I'm a natural introvert, and I didn't realize that for a long time. But for some introverts, the pandemic was almost calming because they were able to truly just be by themselves without any pressure to be on and that kind of thing all the time. But even for some introverts like myself, that isolation got really and so I think the happiness and the mindfulness and people understanding the connection to not only people the need for individuals to understand their own mental health and their self-care, but also how valuable it is to exist in community, because when you were basically living in a vacuum, not having that community was really conspicuous by its absence. So so that whole mindfulness mindset thing kind of sprang from that. And so my point, she said finally, is that so many times people think of mindfulness as someone sitting, in a hut on the top of the Himalayas, or
Yeah.
wearing $150 yoga pants and sitting in a room that's tastefully beige with a candle, and that's what mindfulness is supposed to be. But that's really not what mindfulness is.
Is this tastefully beige?
I am about, well, I am, let's,
Tastefully pale.
you're ecru. We can do the scene from American Psycho and say that my skin is more of an ecru color. That's what happens.
You never know where we're gonna go.
You never know with a
Sensory
lot
exercise?
how weirdo what's gonna come out of our faces. But
From Centering Exercise to American Psycho, yes, that's how we roll here.
we run the gamut. But
where's my tangent meter?
Here you go. For a moment though, we were all mindful because we were paying attention to our breath. We were sitting and envisioning, the scene and painting, and that was a teeny tiny point where that's mindfulness. And mindfulness is the pause and the intersection of the inner and outer worlds. So anyway, but back to the book. She said finally. Oh wait, you have a tangent?
Yeah. Well, it's related. So one thing I do, I forgot to include in the centering exercise is that not everyone is readily adept at visualizing. And I meant to put in a note of, if you're not someone that like can picture a pink elephant, when I say picture a pink elephant, picture the words a pink elephant, or picture the words about a painting, a blank canvas, and picture what you think it would potentially look like, or think of, how you would describe what I'm asking you to paint. And so not everyone has that ability to like conjure it up in your brain, in your mind's eye like that. And so I do apologize for not including that. But yeah, I love your point on micro mindfulness, because you're right. A lot of times people hear the word meditation and are like, no, but we just meditated. Like that.
Correct.
Little, not even a 5-minute thing. I don't know. That might've been 2 or 3 minutes. And that was a meditation. And so congratulations.
Correct.
If you didn't think you could meditate, you just did.
Correct.
Tricked you.
I've also got two tangent. Well, one follow-up and one possible tangent.
Okay,
So
I'm getting the tangent.
We got to get ready. This should go into a book. The Tangents of Christine and Molly. So
that would be a very long book.
It would be a long book. Is that sometimes if you don't have the visibility type of thing, another way to experience things or embody your visualizations is to think about the emotion that it would evoke. So like, let's say you're going to paint a picture of a beach. How would you feel if you were on the beach? Sometimes that's a way to place yourself in the scene as well. And then the other thing about mindfulness and meditation is that a lot of times, and we're not going to go into hypnosis right now, but a lot of times people will say, I can't be hypnotized. I can't do that. I just can't do it. And so I don't drive any longer, but I know that there have been times when I was driving that I would get to my destination and I would have no idea how I got there because I was thinking about any number of things. Or today I was out on my walk and I did this little internal thinking about, I don't know what I was thinking about. It was something clearly important. But for a half a block, I was able to stay upright, breathing. My heart still worked. I didn't bonk into anybody else or a fence when I was walking. So that was a form of hypnosis because there was a certain portion of my brain that took over for keeping Molly, autonomous while she started thinking about, I don't know, brownies, or I don't know what I was thinking about. Yeah. But I mean, those are opportunities when your brain does that,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to know what that's called?
Please.
Do you want to know
What's that
the
called?
brain science behind that? That's called you
Please.
turned on your default mode network.
Ta-da!
Your I was
I
like, well,
did
that was
not know that.
So your default mode network, I always have a hard time saying that. Your DMN is when you're daydreaming and like everything else is just going automatically and you're not consciously aware of the things that you're doing. So just like you were saying, you're walking down the block and you were like deep in your thoughts and the rest of your brain went to sleep, which is really actually important. And that is why it's actually good to be bored, because you get to like, that is the time when you will get the most like disparate ideas and like put them together. So like showering and driving are like the two like most common times people tend to experience it. But yeah, walking down the street. Also, I will take the dog to the lake, and also this is 100% totally a tangent. Number one, tangent number one. And we'll take the dog to the lake, and looking at water is one of the fastest ways to turn on your default mode network and just like letting yourself get like lost in the waves, or like looking at fire, all of those things. So hooray, we should have like a little brain break or something, like brain break time out, like hey, I know the brain science on that.
I am all for that because and I don't know if this is, please, let me know if this is, if there's a term for this as well.
Sure.
But much in the same way that our brains and our ability to function is severely affected by not being able to sleep, I have to think that there's got to be a similar breakdown that's related to not letting your brain offline once in a while. I think that parts wear out or whatever, or it's, for me, one of the things that I use when I talk about being people who are always stressed out, or they're always, especially with the current wave of, gestures at everything, the coffee dog on fire, is that when your adrenal glands are, open, if the floodgates on that spigot are open all of the time, or you are absolutely depleting your adrenals. You're also just pegging your gas to the psychological, floor all the time. And it's not sustainable, and you will break. Your body will just say, done.
Oh yeah, you're spiking your cortisol. Yeah, weight gain, all of that. Not sleeping.
Yeah,
and then it becomes a vicious cycle, because then it's hard. It's difficult to get out of that. And so, is there anything that the law of creativity can do to help us with that?
Yes, but before I talk about the law of wellness, because that's actually addressed in one of the other 22, because we're only talking about 3 of the 22 through this series. We're talking about just 3, but I want to just do a quick little plug for this other book that I've been reading. It's called Mind to Matter by Dawson Church, and it's got a foreword by Dr. Joe Dispenza. But this book talks about all sorts of interesting stuff that has to do with the physiology of the brain, and how unconscious creating is something that we do all of the time, and it gives a lot of ways for us, for me, for you, for the royal we, to be more mindful, to be more intentional, which does segue into this book that has to do with the law of creativity. So the law of creativity.
Just found Mind to Matter.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. So let me go. So the law of creativity talks about the impact of the imagination on the creation of our worlds. But I also just wanted to kind of read just directly from the book, because I think it has a little bit of impact that just lays it out pretty cleanly. Everything is created twice, first mentally, then physically. A blueprint precedes construction. A business plan comes before business success. Character development prefaces responsible and self-disciplined children. The first creation is on the mental plane. The physical result follows. This is the non-negotiable law of creativity. We use the law all of the time, but seldom do we use it consciously. Okay, end of reading. So I'll probably pick it up and read from it some more, but
there we go.
Something that I wanted to use a personal example from my life to show how an idea manifested its way through a final product. So about 10 years ago, well, actually, oh gosh, it's been probably closer to 14 years ago, 15 years ago, I established a nonprofit that provided vehicles to women who I called women in transition, because I didn't like to call them low-income women, because it was just, it might have been factually true, but not mentally true. But the establishment of the organization started when I myself was still living in subsidized housing as a single mom on welfare with 3 kids. And I didn't have a car, and I had a friend of mine who would drive me back and forth to college, and I'm forever grateful to that friend. But it was just really cumbersome, and it was very limiting. I remember when I finally was able to work at a newspaper, and I had a car that was held together with Bondo and prayer. It was my brother's car that he did not use anymore. In the Midwest, we call these beaters, because they're these cars that if they get hit by a bus, who gives a rat's patoot, you just put more Bondo on it and it keeps moving. And that, by the time I was able to work at a newspaper, I had my own car, I had my own condo, I had reached a level of financial stability, and I started serving on various boards. And these were for capacity building organizations. So all sorts of different places that had to do with providing women with shelter and job possibilities, and how to interview, and all of these different, like a cloud of support around women's autonomy and economic emancipation. And the missing element was this car. And I just was thinking to myself, why in the world do we spend literally millions of dollars as a country trying to help a woman get a job when she finally does get one, if she can't keep it? Because the number one reason welfare to work programs fail is a lack of reliable transportation. So my point is that this was an idea. And it was something that I would talk with people over coffee and board meetings, or I would talk about it at the community foundation about who do you think would fund this and how do you think this would happen. And it went from being an idea in 2004 to an actual organization in 2010. And then here in Chicago, we started to actually give vehicles to people. And I remember back when we were still in Iowa, the very first time that I opened an application from a person, I had to pull over. I was kind of flipping through mail at a stoplight, so I don't recommend going through this is probably don't be like me, but I was going through and I saw that this was important. So I did pull over, because I was like, oh, I better, pay attention. And it was just, I'll never forget the gut punch I had when I thought to myself, this woman is trusting me with her children's future. This woman is trusting me with this, that, and the thing. And it became very real for me in an extremely tangible way. And I'll never forget driving to the courthouse with this woman in the passenger seat. And she was just looking at, the paperwork. And she said, no one has ever done anything like this for me. And all of these things come together to just, I want you to understand that when you imagine something, it's not like, I wish I had $1 million and kaplumo, it shows up in a pile in your living room. But as you are thinking about something, and as you are manifesting, and as you are concentrating and imagining, what does this organization look like? Or what does this goal look like? Or who's going to be part of this goal? These are the parts of your brain and this invisible field that basically you generate. We are we generate energy, that these thoughts go out and they connect with other people who are on a similar wavelength, who are also saying, you know what, there really should be an organization that does this, or I know how I can help this organization happen, or whatever. So again, this is a total tangent in terms of my story, when I kind of went farther back than I thought I would. But there are women who are driving around in a vehicle today, right now, because of an idea that happened back in 2004. So it comes through. We are the conduit for the things that we wish to see happen in this world. And so that's part of the law of wellness, yes, but it also, I believe that being that conduit and intentionally bringing your thoughts to a focus point is what helps you to pull them from the ether into this, a manifestation of a book or a car or whatever. So anyway, total tangent.
No, that's not a tangent. That was highly relevant.
Yeah, I felt like I kind of went off the deep end there for a second, but I feel as if sometimes people don't feel that they're creating anything, and I would just invite you, dear viewer, to think about anything that you've ever done in your life. Did you get a degree? Did you have a child? Did you get a job? Did you paint a picture? Did you bake a cake? I mean, anything that you as an individual have done has gone through those stages of, I would really like to have a piece of pie right now. I do not have a piece of pie in my living room or my kitchen, but I do have flour and apples. And anyway, I would love to listen to your take on it, because
No, that's fantastic. That's exactly it. And like, the part about the law of creativity, it's created twice, once in your brain and then once in, I forget how they phrase it, in this physical plane, right? And so you had that idea in 2004, is that what you said, or 2006? Thereabouts.
thereabouts.
The early aughts. And then like 4 to 6 years later, like, it's real. Like, you're not going to get it. Like, I think when people talk about manifestation, I think that's what people get wrong. I mean, myself included sometimes, where it's like, well, I've decided I want this thing, and that's what I'm going after. Why isn't it here today? Because, well, duh, things have to happen and arrange themselves, right? So, I have to remember, remind myself, slow my roll, like, let's practice patience. I heard it's a virtue. And those things that we're working on, we have to work on with intention. And it's always amazing to me how some of the, lack of a better term, synchronicities start to line up when that happens. So I'm trying to think of an example from my own personal life, but how do you one other thing that I do want to underscore about something that you said is that you are always manifesting no matter what. You are always creating. And if you don't like the term manifesting, because everyone's talking about manifestation, then fine, you're creating. You're creating things in your own reality. And whether you, God, what's that quote? Whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. Like, that's manifesting, that's creating. Like, if you are working from that mindset of I cannot, well, you won't, because you already believe that you can't. But if you operate from the mindset of you can, and better yet, that you will, then eventually, again, it will take time, but it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to, I mean, maybe it would happen next week. I don't know what your thing is, but dear viewer, but it will happen eventually. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes, I have two things that I wanted to mention, but I'm going to read from the book, because I want to address the first thing, and then I'll go to the second thing, because we were kind of talking before we went live, and I wanted to make sure that we didn't forget this part, because it also links to the last week. So if you haven't watched last week's, the law of accountability is pretty important, and here's why. Okay. The law of creativity comes into play either by default or by design. by accident or on purpose. The trouble is, most often we simply react. We are passive. We accept what is without a single thought of what might be. We allow others to press our creative buttons. Think back and connect with the law of personal accountability. We each have an ability to respond and a power to create. This is not reaction, it is proaction, and it is an idea that is intimately tied to the law of creativity. Almost done. Look at our personal lives. When we do not accept personal responsibility and do not develop awareness of the tremendously powerful law of creativity, we empower other people to set the agendas of our lives. So this kind of, I'm going to skip down to this other part here. For instance, a life script may have been handed down to us by our parents. We respond out of habit, obligation, or even coercion. By default, without conscious thought, we find ourselves in a life of someone else's choosing. Okay, end of reading. So, again, there are a couple things I want to mention, and this is I'm gonna take what I would assume to be a successful example of succession, and Mark does not even know he's going to be used as an exercise on this. But there's a gentleman who lives in Chicago named Mark who inherited his father's business.
Just one.
Well,
Just
I'm
one
gonna this one Mark that I'm gonna talk about, but he inherited his family business, and he's fucking amazing at it. I mean, he was literally born to do this, and he's damn good at it. He loves it. It just is part of, wow, I'm the luckiest man on the planet because I get to be the person who inherited this business, and I love seeing it flourish. And he's handed it down to one of his children who is similarly googly and overjoyed to be the next generation. That's not always the case. So, like, here's another Chicago example. Marshall Field's son was like, no, I really like drinking and I love painting and I love hanging out with really hot girls. And his dad was like, why don't you want to be Marshall Field that runs my store and all this great stuff? And his son's like, because I really don't want to. Now, this particular son did not inherit the business, and he did not fulfill the business, and he ended up getting shot in a disreputable house of fun times, which that's a really interesting book.
A house of ill rapport?
Yeah, yes. So that's another Empower Hour. But there are a lot of times when people do say, oh, God, yes, I'll inherit the business. Yes, I'll do it because I don't want my dad to be sad. Exactly. Yeah. And it just is like you wake up when you're 52 years old and say, I really wanted to be a painter, or I really wanted to go into botany, or I really wanted to have a yam farm in Guam.
In Borneo.
For those of you, that's
the yams in Borneo.
Yeah, the yams in Borneo is going to be one of our band names. Hey, Chicago, we're Yams in Borneo, and we're here to rock you out. But anyway, so that person wakes up at 52 and says, I didn't want to be a storekeeper. But you know what? Yeah. It's not his dad's fault. It's not his mom's fault. It's that dude that's like, I got to take accountability because I did not create the life I wanted to create. And I stepped into a life that someone told me I wanted. And I did not put up a fight. And you don't have to say, and it's not that being a shopkeeper is bad or whatever, but if it's not in alignment.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah, then it's not for you, and that's fine. And that's why I love that, like, I mean, I haven't beat this horse in a while, but I haven't beaten any horses, but this one in particular, it's been a minute. The whole rules, the idea of like the bullshit rules that we fall into because society decided that this is a rule we need to follow and they didn't ask us first. So we just got to go along with it, whether it's like the picket fence and 2.5 children and, or the corporate job in like the cubicle or the corner office, if that's the thing that you're striving for. And it's like, well, that's all fine and good. There is nothing inherently positive or negative about any of those things. It's, do you want it or not? If you do want it, like truly, then great. Go for that corner office. Have the let's stick with whole numbers. Have the kids. Like, but if you don't, there's nothing wrong with you not wanting it either. I mean, you might you might disappoint some people, but guess what? You're gonna disappoint someone either way, no matter what you do. Please don't disappoint yourself out of all of that. And so that's my soapbox. We should have a soapbox.
No, yeah, we got the tangent thing and the soapbox. There you go.
The times we talk about yams in Borneo.
Yams in Borneo.
Yeah.
Scripts, blah, blah, blah. Shaping this, schmucky. So this part about the law of creation has to do, we're going to go back to the concept of intention. And it's actually, Greg does not go into it in super great detail because the book is intended to be a very quick read and, more of a read one very quickly, take some notes.
Where did you find this book? Because I keep trying to find it. I meant to ask you this before we even hopped on.
A little
Molly
free library.
Was able to find a summary. Is that it wouldn't show up for me.
No. A little free library.
Oh,
I was walking around my neighborhood and someone had put it in their library. So I was like, I think I have 10 little free libraries within a 2.5 mile radius of my house. So, and I have some really great librarians who live there, not librarians, but I call them librarians, the people who live there. But no, I was in a little free library. But
what a find. Sorry.
Oh, I was there again a second and I go, oh, there we go.
Oh, shoot, I'm sorry.
No. I picked it right back up. So this book is intended to be more of a shorter, we're going to drop some knowledge on you, a couple of examples, and then move on to the next. This one is a little bit more difficult to read in a good way. Yeah. First of all, it is heavier. And second of all, this thing goes into actual neurological brain stuff about how it works. Yeah. And how it works and things like that. So one of the examples from the Law of Wellness had to do with someone who was overcoming an injury, a really debilitating injury. And I know that we've seen a lot of sports figures, especially who were, told that they would never walk again or something like that, and they do. And part of it has to do with the concept of the law of creativity as it relates to how your brain and the neurons connected to it actually are linked to muscle movement. So then this, again, it gets a little granular here in terms of, there was a study where there's 3 different groups, the control group, the blah, 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 and they're hooked up to the electrodes and they are instructed to imagine doing push-ups and pull-ups and bicep curls and things like that. And there are actual physical proof of and things like that, where they measured the change in the muscles based on pure mental imagery and visualizing it and thinking about it. So, I mean, disclaimer here is to say, I'm not promising that you'll walk again if you are paraplegic and you just believe hard enough that you can. I mean, I really don't want to minimize it. Really don't want to discount any experience that anyone is experiencing, but I'm just stating clinical, scientific, peer-reviewed data that shows that our brains have an immense amount of power. So really think about what you're creating. I really could keep talking. I have another thing that I wanted to talk about, but if you have something that you'd like to mention, certainly go for it.
I did want to ask you, one, I will probably pick up that book in like the actual physical book, because I feel like that's something I will want to like highlight the fuck out of. Like, I can't do that with a library book. And I tend to do audiobooks. And so the little audio notes just don't really do it for me sometimes on books like that. So thank you. I will pick that one up. I did want to ask you, how do you recognize when you're creating from fear versus from alignment?
So that one is very difficult because the other thing that happens when we create out of fear is because fear is our default setting, because fear is what keeps us alive.
I was just going to say that because it keeps us alive. That's how we're wired.
It really is. And so it's really difficult to discern between, is this a real true fear, or is it an imagined fear, or is it one that is subconscious that I've inherited that I don't even know that I'm afraid of something. So I mean, it's my biggest way to tell if you are creating from fear or love is to look at your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Because our environments are a reflection of what we think we deserve, and what we think is appropriate for us, or what we dare. I was reading some T.S. Eliot over the weekend, and it's like, do I dare disturb the universe? And the answer to that for me is to say, fuck yes, disturb the fuck out of the universe, because that's why you're here.
We are the universe. We are stars.
We are the universe.
We are made of stars.
Yeah, we are. And so when you look at your environment and you look and you really think, because you've got to slow down once in a while and really pay attention too, because a lot of times people just sleepwalk through their life and they wonder why they're pissed off at the age of 47 and they hate their life and they don't know why. It's because they never paid attention for 30 years or whatever. So I would recommend
47-year-old Molly. I'm not that far away.
I'm sorry. I said 57 earlier too. So
I'm teasing.
Here is something that I would encourage and invite people to do who are listening to this, if in introspection and self-reflection is not their normal or everyday state of being. If this is all new to you and you're like, Molly, what the hell are you talking about? I would just literally write it in your day book or put it in your calendar to spend a day of asking yourself what you want. Literally spending a day or an hour in that day, at least an hour. Do I like my job? Do I like my friends? Do I like my fitness? Do I like my relationships? Literally ask yourself those questions. And I like journaling because we've said it bazillions of times on this Empower Hour. The active writing does different stuff with the way that our bodies and our brain synapses and stuff work. But write it down. And that's your first clue. If you see, no, I don't like my life. No, I don't like my job. No, I hate my relationships. No, I'm not fit. And you see a lot of dissatisfaction. That is a big fargan clue that you are creating by default. You are not creating intentionally because you are not. Go for it. Yeah, that's probably one of my things.
Yeah. Do you mind if I run us through a real quick impromptu exercise on this?
Go for it.
Okay, great. I'm going to get that notebook right there.
Okie dokie. If you're at home, if you're playing the at-home version of Empower Hour, you can go get yourself something to write on, a pen, and play along with us. We're inviting you to do this as well.
Yeah, so this is an unexpected added little exercise. So if you give me a moment.
And the other thing that I want you to understand, dear reader or dear viewer, is that when you do these exercises, you're writing to yourself. I don't give a shit what you're writing. This is none of my business. This is your life. This is your list. You can burn it or flush it or do whatever you want with it after you write it. But when you write things like this that are part of your soul journey, it's not your wife's business. It's not your husband's business. It's not your mom or your parakeet, or this is between you and that piece of paper. So just FYI.
Definitely, especially not the parakeet.
Yeah, they're blabbermouths. They can't keep their freaking mouth shut.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just repeat whatever they hear. That's parakeets, right? I never had a bird. Okay, so what this is what if you get a piece of paper, it can be a napkin. I don't give a shit. Post-it note, whatever. Envelope, sure. Your hand. Draw a circle, and if you can, break it out into 12 slices of pie. And so it will end up looking, I don't know how well this is going to translate. We can make this a PDF, and but it will look something like this. It's a little look a little bit like a clock, but you just want to have a circle with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. Duh, I could have figured that out without counting. 6 lines, then you'll have 12 slices. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's fine. But what I want you to do is for each slice of pie, I want you to label them. And going from the top, let's say 12 noon, and going clockwise. So we're going to the right. Love relationships would be like 1 o'clock, basically. Friends, adventures, your environment, like not the environment, not like the earth environment, but like your own physical environment. So like Molly's in Paris. It's a great environment. So we've got love, relationships, friends, adventures, environment, health and fitness, your intellectual life, skills, spiritual life, career, 3 more, creative life, family life, and community life. So one more time, I'll go around just to give people time to write this down. Love, relationships, friends, adventures, environment, health and fitness, intellectual life, skills, spiritual life, career, creative life, family life, and community life. Now, if one is the center, well, actually, let's assume the middle, the spoke, or I'm sorry, the hub of the of this wheel, the very middle of it. Assume that's 0, and then pretend that the further towards the edge of the circle, the perimeter, the closer you get, that's 10. Okay, so if you can just kind of like visualize. Again, us with the visualizing today. If you can just visualize what those steps would roughly be. Again, doesn't have to be an exact science. This is just to give you a visual representation of how you would gauge each of those areas in your life as they currently are right now. So in your love relationships, how satisfied are you? Your friends. I love doing this, like you can see, like with mine, like I did like colored pencils, and I like just I colored them all different colors just because it was a little faster. But you can just put like a little mark down where you think it would be, and you can color it in later if you want, or not at all. You don't have to do that. But if you just, or even just like write the number, I'd put the number in just so that I would remember what I thought that mark stood for, because it's, again, just a blank piece of paper that I'm writing on. Yeah, so on a scale of 0, well, let's say 1. I hope none of yours are 0, but that's possible. Like 0 to 10, love relationships. 0 to 10, how would you rate your friendships? 0 to 10, how about your adventures? And then go all the way around, and then look at it and decide which are the 4 or 3. Let's say 3. 3 is the magic number. I did 4. Which of the 4, 3 or 4, do you really want to focus on improving? And so back when I did this, which, Lord, I don't even know when I did this, because of course I didn't date it, but this is from 2022. So this is 3 years ago. So 3 years ago, I wanted to focus on my spiritual life, my career, my creative life, and my community life. And at that time in 2022, we were still we're just coming out of pandemic, right? So community life at a 2, I'm shocked it got a 2. I was very active on Zoom. Yeah, no shit. It was community life was a 2. And I would say that's probably an 8, like 3 years later. I feel like I have a fantastic community around me. Spiritual life, I had put as a 5, and it's great to see that, like, now, again, I would probably put that more at like an 8 now. Like the amount of like attention I've put into like the intentionality of like becoming more in tune with spirituality, and again, non-denominational, is actually interesting to see. I haven't really looked back at this since then. And then you just go around and then and you decide which ones do you really want to work on. And it's a nice way to be intentional and to create knowingly. And I have underlined, I don't know, this feels relevant. Stop postponing happiness. I like that. I don't know that I have really been one to do that personally, but I know a lot of people can be that way. So anyways, I hope that was
So that's cool.
helpful.
That's actually that's a really good start for people who don't know if they're creating on purpose, to look at those spokes to see if what they assume is true is actually true. Because a lot of times, a lot of people assume that if something isn't on fire, then it's okay. You know, so like, well, you know, I'm paying my bills, or I'm doing this, I am employed, or what, so that's not bad. I mean, could be worse. It could be worse is like one of the worst barometers of how well is something going. Well, it could be worse.
I mean,
well,
if you're saying it could be worse, is probably a sign that means that like it could be better.
Exactly.
Like, hey.
Something else. Another thing that I recommend for diagnostics, if people feel as if they don't know where to start, is to literally start getting in the habit of asking yourself, as you drift off to sleep, I want to know what I want. I want to know what I want. And your brain will answer it for you. You will be brushing your teeth or riding the train or doing something again to the default mode. And it'll just pop into the frontal lobe. It'll be like, I want to paint. I want to be a yam farmer. It will just literally drop. It'll just like, not literally, it'll figuratively drop into your head, and you'll just be amazed at the clarity with which it will come. And it will be absolutely like a lightning bolt out of the sky. There won't be any doubt or whatever. It just, because it's just the way that when your body, or when your higher self or your conscious wants to make a point, it doesn't fart around. It just is basically like, you asked, here you go. And then you have a chance to create purpose. Go ahead.
Yeah. Nope. I was going to be silly. It's fine. So do you believe, this is like the interview portion, because you have read this book and I have not. So do you believe that everyone is creative?
Do I believe that everyone what?
Is creative?
Oh my gosh, yes. So, okay. So here's something that okay. Yes. First of all, the answer to your question is yes. And second of all, I feel as if people who ask that question, and I know that the reason you asked it was more of an interviewee person, but I know from my life working as someone in advertising and the creative fields that I had so many clients who would tell me, I'm not creative. I'm not a creative person. And I'm just thinking, yes, you are. You just don't use paint, or you don't sing, or you don't dance, or you don't do something that's considered an art. But anybody is a creator. Anybody's creative. And the example that was in the book talked about not forcing things, and not trying to imagine something so hard that you can't even generate an image, or you really, in order to be a conscious creator and for it to be effortless, it has to be something that just occurs to you, or it's something that you have intrinsically. And the example that Greg uses is that Mozart and Beethoven would tell people that they had symphonies like streaming through their head, and they had to write it because it was just like in their head, and that was how to get it out of here onto a piece of paper. And so there's probably someone who's watching this who is someone who can look at, I don't know, something that I wouldn't even think twice about. I don't know, the way that a bus is designed or something like that. I don't know. But someone else
Yeah.
would look at this bus and go, oh, well, you can see that the mechanism that does this is designed for this reason, and this does that. And I'm just like, I don't know. I just get on the bus. I don't even think
Get
about
on
it.
it,
But
right?
there
Get
is
on and get off. It goes
exactly,
Yeah, right.
and there's something that
A flux
the royal
capacitor is
you,
connected to the.
yeah. There's just something that you, royal viewer, who are listening to this and watching this, you see something in a way that the rest of the world doesn't. And that's usually hints of those types of things can be found in your hobbies or the things that you do on your day off. I will say that I had one client that was such a people pleaser that she came to me because she wanted to start living her life on her own terms. And I asked her the question, what are some things that you like to do? And she just was quiet for like 5 minutes. And I actually thought I lost a connection. I thought, oh my God, I lost a Zoom link. And she finally said, you know what? I have no idea. I spend 99% of my day making the things go well for everybody else in my life, everybody at work, my family. She says, I really have no idea what I like to do. And that's very, what's the word I'm looking for? That's very rare. I mean, most people, if you can ask them what they like
Is
to
it?
do, they'll tell. I don't know. I mean, she really had no idea. Like some people will say, oh, I like, what do you do on your day off? Oh, I like to go work in the garden, or I like to go to, car shows, or I like to, they have some thing that they do on their day off that I can drill down and say, okay, what is it about going to the car shows that you like? Oh, I like looking at the engines. Awesome. What is it about the engines that you like? And if you, ask those the why question enough, you'll figure out what they actually truly love about whatever. But that is the first time my entire time of coaching that I've had a person say, I have no idea what I like. And it really bothered her. And it took a long time for her to finally carve out some time for herself because she had been so used to making everyone else happy in her life.
Yeah,
that was
and you helped her. You helped her through that transition. Yeah, I think I have too many therapist friends because I've heard versions of that story a few times where, most recently, this is not my client, this is someone else's client. We were swapping stories, de-identified, of course. And she has an unhealthy tethership to her son. And she just, anytime she was asked about herself, she would answer about the son. Like, well, I don't have to worry about him now. Like, I'm glad that this situation is this way because I don't have to worry about him. Like, no, that's about him. Tell me about you. And so she's in that cycle. So, yeah, I hope that doesn't resonate, dear viewer. I hope that you are someone that's like, I like to crochet or knit or color, or walk a dog. Like, that's perfectly good perfectly good pastime, or something to do during halftime if you're a football wife.
That's actually a good way to find out if what you do like, though, honestly, is to develop things like habits or take a class that seems interesting, or it might be something that you've never done, but you're like, yeah, that might be interesting. And it could be something like basket weaving or something like that. And you go to the class and just like, nope, this isn't it. My mom, when I was a kid, took a class on cane weaving, like restoring the seats on chairs. And I will say that part of jumpstarting your creative gene is doing something that engages your hands, because it makes things go on up here in a way that if they're dormant or you're not used to doing something with your hands, and it could be writing, it could be calligraphy, it could be rewiring a car, it could be painting, it could be sculpting. But having something happen with you're engaging your hands.
That's not typing on a keyboard.
Correct. Yeah, gardening, or just those types of things are neurological jump starts to
Mhm.
get other things going. And so, like in the case of a basket weaving example, you might not like basket weaving, but you find that you like the rhythmic action of weaving. So maybe you are a crochet person, or maybe you want to
Mhm.
learn how to make your own
Maybe.
cloth or something like
Right.
that. But I mean, if you don't start anything, you're never going to know. So just,
Just
give
try
it,
stuff.
try stuff. Hmm.
Yeah, you don't have to sign up for an entire. I don't know. I'm thinking like sports. Like you don't have to sign up for an entire like. In Chicago, we have player sports or
Yep.
sport players or something. Sport and social. Um, you don't have to sign up for an entire season of volleyball. you
Yep.
can you can go to like one lesson or something like
Yeah.
that, or pick up games, etc. So yeah, there's ways to try out a whole bunch of different things, and it's okay to not like stuff. It's good to find out what you don't like. I have one of my favorite phrases that there's no such thing as failure. It's feedback. It's all information. You're gathering info. So
Yep.
if you don't go out and try things, you don't know, and
Correct.
that's not what we're here to do. But also I want to like just one other point that you reminded me of is that like you don't need to force your way into a better life. Like you are trying, we're encouraging you to create with intention. But there's a difference between creating with intention and alignment um, than brute force. That's when you start getting into like hustle culture and like the fake it till you make it sort of thing, which I go back and forth on fake it till you make it. Like it has its place, but then it's toxic at the same time. So, anyways, different topic for another day. Um, but you can design your life. You can like design your way there, and so it's like taking these small steps towards the bigger vision. And so, like that circle exercise that we did with the slices of pie, like, okay, you want to go from a 2 to an 8. Okay, that's not going to happen tomorrow, but it will over time with intention and with practice. Like if you start to do journaling exercises, you start to do those, trying out different hobbies or different activities like Molly was suggesting. If you're doing those sort of like energy check-ins of like, am I creating or am I reacting right now? If you're doing any of those things, those are all clues that start to build that mental muscle, build those, the connections in your brain, synapses that fire together, wire together. And over time, you can go from a 2 to a 4 to a 6 to an 8, hopefully maybe a 10, but it doesn't have to be a 10 either. So, and with that, you don't have to do it alone either. We are here to help you. We have an entire program called Collab, designed specifically to help people figure out what it is that they want their goals to be. Have you figure out together, we help you figure out a roadmap to get there. And over the course of 3 to 6 months, you're at least closer, if not there. Your mileage may vary. It depends on how much work you put in, to be totally honest. But we're here to support you every single step of the way. It is a lot of work. Change is not easy, and we can't. Oh, Molly, what's the phrase that you've said before? Like, I can't do the reps for you. Like if
Oh, yeah, we can't do your push-ups for you, but we'll make sure the gym's open.
yes,
But
exactly.
I did want to mention something, especially in relation to the collab and community, is that and also the change. It's difficult, but it's also um, when you change anything in your life, logically speaking, other things in your life will change as well. And those
Mhm.
changes could include networks. It could be that there were friends of yours who were like, I do not want to knit. I think yarn and knitting is stupid. So, ugh. So there may be opportunities for you to, it's going to be attrition. There's going to be people in your life and your circles who might fall out of that circle. And you might find that there are people who are like all about yarning or knitting. And they're like, oh my gosh, let me talk about the difference between yarn from this wool and this, whatever. And you
You have
might
a J size needle, or are you crocheting with an A?
exactly. You're gonna so if you experience some of that creating on purpose and shit starts going sideways in your life, that's part of the deal. That's
Yeah.
part of how change works and how creating on purpose works. So I just wanted to um, um, put that out there because I think sometimes people feel guilty that they don't want to leave people behind, or I've been friends since we were in second grade. And so,
Yeah.
so just FYI, you're going to probably, I think Christine had said it earlier, everyone's not going to like you. So you've got to be okay with that because otherwise you're going to be living someone else's life. And to the collab thing, what I love about the community in the collab is that there's room to iterate without judgment. We're not saying, well, that was really stupid of you, or that was a dumb choice, or whatever. I mean, but so that's another thing in terms of people who are new to change and new to creating on purpose. It can feel scary. So anyway,
True. Also, I just realized that there's no crochet hook size A. I was like, wait a minute, I don't remember what crochet hook sizes are. And of course I mentioned one that doesn't exist. Whoops. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's been a minute
yeah,
since I've crocheted.
yeah, it doesn't exist yet.
But see, that's the kind of thing that you could bring up in collab and no one would judge you. So
That's right. I want to mention because we've got the third. If you've joined us for this second one, the third one is the greatest law is the law of unconditional loving. So that's next Tuesday. I want to make sure we get that in there if people have to bounce, because that one is the hardest law too. The law of unconditional loving.
Loving. Thank you.
Let me, the law of unconditional loving, LOVING, loving. And it's absolutely the hardest law. So fair warning or whatever, but it's also the most powerful. So I hope you can join us next week because it's going to be off the hook.
It is off the crochet hook.
Off the chain. Off the crochet hook.
Yeah. Well, if you do have to bounce, the YouTube link for next week is already up on the premiere, I believe is called, is already set up. So you can go over and ring that bell, I believe, and hit the notify me button, and the YouTubes will let you know when we're live. But it's every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central. And we hope to see you there. Thank you so much for joining us, and create intentionally this week, friends. Take care.